Hello. In this presentation we'll be talking about using color codes effectively. That is, structured use of color styles. So, first question is, who do you develop Excel workbooks for? Most people develop workbooks for themselves, so we can call that individual workbooks. There are others, and they're in the minority, who develop workbooks so that other people can share them. And that's what I call here corporate workbooks. Now, what's the characteristics of individual workbooks? Well, it's more of a scrapbook approach. You just do whatever you want. There's a limited use of colour styles and borders. Often there's inconsistent formats between tables, poor use of add-ins, VBA add-ins, and it's largely unstructured. But what do corporate workbooks look like? Well, they're basically the same. Again, a scrapbook approach, limited use of colour styles and borders, inconsistent formats and poor use of add-ins, and largely unstructured. But that's not the way it should be. Corporate workbooks should use more formal approaches. They should use a consistent use of colour styles. The table should be well formatted. There should be efficient use of the add-ins and very structured, particularly the use of named ranges. The background to MIDAS Tech, well, it started as a business called MathsMet in 2009, and MIDAS Tech became a commercial offshoot. I initially developed applications for mineral processing using Excel, Visio and Access, and I realised the applications could be generalised. So my objectives for 2015 is to release a general Excel flowsheet based simulation system and to release small applications for general use. Here we're focusing on colour codes. Now, there's three different ways we can use colour codes or colour styles. We can use a colour style directly in a workbook. We can actually create a colour code workbook and then copy the styles, or we can copy a range of data using colour styles to control copy properties. We'll be discussing all three issues in this presentation. Delete. In this presentation there'll be three topics covered: colour styles, that is, how do we use colour styles, how to use a colour code workbook, and copying a range of data using colour styles to control the copy properties. Most of you will be familiar with how to format a cell. So you can actually use things like the fill, the text, colour, borders and so forth. And obviously that takes a reasonable time. So if we wanted to construct a cell to look like that cell and we were to use the direct methods, it would be a little bit time consuming. So colour styles is used to speed up this process. So if we go to cell styles, we have a whole choice of different styles that we can use. The styles at the bottom are largely those provided directly by Excel. I've here included a list of styles which I use. So if we wanted to duplicate that table, one way to do it would be to do test table, and then we go to cell styles and we say heading 1. And then of course we have to do the borders and everything else. Now, cell styles is very useful. The danger is that the cell styles are held by the actual workbook. It's more efficient or more formal to try and use a single workbook that holds all the styles and use them. So we're going to discuss that in the next presentation. What I like to do is use a workbook. So here we have a particular workbook which has color codes, and it also has commands which I like to use, and we can apply this to another workbook. So if we were to open up a new workbook, then color codes, which have now been transferred to this one, and decide I want to change color styles as I'm working. We can do that easily. Modify heading 1 for various reasons. I might want to format it, and I might want to change the fill to that. If I did, then that's here. So we can have lots of change it to any color. It's changed all those corresponding cells. So this way, and you change it, the inconsistent workbook, and say merge styles on book 2. You can say yes. So it's gone from book 1 in this. Now, and it actually also gets rid of any styles starting that are not in the color. And here In this part of the presentation, we'll talk about using color styles to control the way that we copy a table from one range to another. Now we'll just get rid of this. Now, in the commands, there's a command which says set color settings for copying ranges. This creates this table here with the user having the option of setting what would happen to particular styles in terms of a copy. And there's 4 choices. I don't want any values copied, which of course means you want the format. You want the value copied, you want a formula copied, or you want a direct link. So if we go back to commands and say copy range, we can go and select test table, and we can select the point where we want it to go. And we've created a new table. If we look at this table, well, we haven't got a value here, but if we look at what we set for this particular cell style, which was heading 1, then it said no, we don't actually want the value. For these ones, which are label, we actually said we want a direct link here. For here we said we want the value, and that's user input. And for this one, we're getting the formula there and the formula here. And that's because we said we want to copy the formula. So in this way, we can efficiently and quickly copy a table from one position to another, and then we can adjust this as it suits. Why do we want to use some of these functions? Well, if we change this to value 1, then it automatically changes it on every table that had been copied from it. So in this way, we've identified exactly each cell, what sort of style it is and what it means. We've also created a function which determines how we should copy that table. And that's not all. We can call this table 2, and we can actually, I'll clear it now. Now suppose you can actually run it directly from code. So here's my function here. We can run this. But that's not all. We also, the user gets the advantage of running a macro or calling the macros. So here's an example of the test. So we simply have a line which says set the color using the range color set, and then copy the range from test table to table 2 along the lines that we said before. And we say run, continue, and we now look and we've got the new table. With of course that being table 2. So if we check these name ranges, color set is that, the test table was that, and the select list is that, which these values cannot be changed.